The union government wanted an app called Sanchar Saathi to be pre-installed on your mobile phones. And now, after backlash, the government has decided not to make pre-installation mandatory. Earlier, the Department of Telecommunications had issued a directive to pre-install the government app to all mobile phone manufacturers. This move had triggered outrage and raised concerns about privacy. Activists and opposition parties allege that it will lead to mass surveillance. The government said it is designed to enhance user security. To break it down to our viewers in this week's In Public Interest, I am joined by Nikhil Pahwa, who is the founder and editor of MediaNama, to explain what really is going on and why one should be worried about such a move without any public consultation. Conversations around privacy matters, and I want to draw your attention towards one of the investigative stories done by my colleague Megha Mukundan on how CCTV visuals from a government-owned theatre in Kerala landed on Telegram porn groups. She found an entire underground economy thriving on such stolen footage. At TNM, we make sure that we highlight such important issues. And if you want to support us, scan this QR code and contribute to our reporting fund and strengthen our journalism. Nikhil, thank you so much for talking to us. Nikhil, the union government has asked mobile phone manufacturers to pre-install a government app called Sanchar Saathi. Why does this raise such huge concerns?
Thanks for having me on, Shabbir. So, if you think about it, right, this is an app that's being forced onto every single device that's either bought in this country or is in this country, and it will receive. So, if you have a live device, it will get an over the air update when you do a software update for your phone, where this app will get installed on your device. Now, until yesterday, the union minister was saying that before the union minister actually said that it's not mandatory, at least from the wordings of the document and the communication to handset manufacturers, we understand that this was meant to be mandatory on devices and not deletable. Also, you can't change its settings. So the way it was worded was that this app is going to be on your device. It's going to, while it's supposed to be for cybersecurity, for you to report spam and scam, for you to lock in the IMEI number, which is your device identification, it's a government app that's forever on your device, right? And that's a cause for concern because the government could use this to take data out of your device. It could use it to put data into your device, and both are problematic because we already have the government collecting so much data about us. Now on our device, there are private files, there are private conversations, which otherwise are not accessible to the government. There are things that we share privately with our loved ones, different things with different people. All of that becomes open because your data and your messages are unencrypted on your phone. So it's a serious privacy concern that this is happening. But there's also another security concern that, if you go back to the Bhima Koregaon case almost a decade ago, a forensic analysis had pointed out that software was used to implant incriminating documents on the device. Now, this might not impact regular people, but for journalists, for opposition politicians, this becomes a major security threat because it can be used to incriminate them. Not just their personal data being taken, where let's say they're having conversations with other political parties, if a politician's having a conversation. Why is it? It's none of the government's business, right? So the concerns are both around privacy, also around potential risk of being implicated in something you didn't do by device being implanted on your phone, by files being implanted on your phone. And if you just look at it fundamentally, I have lots of apps on my phones. I delete. Sometimes I'm subscribed to something for a couple of years, then I don't want it. I delete this app and the subscription. It's my choice. Why is the government entering my device? Why is it forcing me to use an app? Why is it that I don't have a choice about whether I want to remove it? The wording indicates that you can't even disable permissions. Today, there are many apps for which I've disabled some permissions like location because I can use it without location and it has no business knowing my location all the time. There are apps that you put a permission saying only when I'm using it. So, for example, some apps you will enable like Google Maps. I've enabled the permission for location as only when I'm using Google Maps will it get access to my location. So it's a choice that I have. In this case, your choice is being taken away from you.
So in this case, the directive also says that neither the app can be disabled nor restricted. So you can't do both.
Correct, correct. And by disabling means effectively if you can't delete it, right? Also, that's what it means. Now the ministers clarified yesterday that that it can be uninstalled, it can be disabled, it can be removed. But the wording of the document is quite vague in a sense. There's a particular comma missing in how it's phrased. So it can be taken as only when it's installed should it not be disabled or restricted, or it could mean that shouldn't be able to disable or restrict it in perpetuity. So we don't that the way it's worded is ambiguous, right? So the minister's taken this statement and said it another way. Whereas what we understand when this directive was issued, people were told this is mandatory.
Okay,
So,
Nikhil. Before talking about what the minister has said, the clarification that has come from the union government, there are some basic questions for the people. So, the basic question is, what does a pre-installed government app do? When it is there on your phone, and what does it mean for a person and his privacy?
so when this app is pre-installed on your phone, the government say that it's meant to, let's say, if you've lost your phone, the phone has a unique identification number called IMEI. So you can use it to block your phone, even though it may have your SIM card or your phone. Sorry, if it's been stolen. And they're saying that this will prevent cyber fraud because stolen phones end up getting used for cyber fraud, right? Or if they'll be able to detect the location using this app. So if it's taken outside the boundary of India, then they will know that it's outside the boundary of India. So they will be able to then disable it. If it's being used for spam and scam, you can use it to report scams and spam also. The fact is, like I mentioned earlier, this app has access to a substantial number of permissions, including what files you have on your device, including your call records. It has access to your messages. This is all very sensitive personal information. Our messages aren't just OTPs and spam. There are personal messages that are there. Our files are not just things we've downloaded from the internet. I share my health report with my doctor. It's my personal report, right? So there's a privacy problem when phone scanning app, so to speak, is being imposed on you and on every citizen of this country. The other thing is, if I'm a hacker hypothetically, right, and I know that this one app which is on the device of over a billion handsets in India, it is a honeypot. All I need to do is hack this one app and I will be in a billion devices. And that can be used to take data out of devices. And then you will find more data is being sold on the dark web, right? So this is it constitutes a security risk. And let's face it, our government is not the best in the world at building apps, at providing security in apps. Government websites leak data all the time. They are badly designed, badly architected. So why should this app that is built for security uh, be a vulnerability for all our citizens? The other is a very conceptual. It's a slightly philosophical point that I want to make. Um, let's Rahul Shankar tweeted yesterday that We allow foreign apps on our phones, but there is some kind of racism that when it's an Indian app, then we have a problem with it. Now, he's wrong. I have PhonePe on my device.
Hmm.
I have Zomato. I love both companies, love both apps. I trust them. Zomato, it's not that Zomato has never been hacked. About 10 years ago, Zomato was hacked. But how did Zomato behave? It put out a notice saying that it has been hacked, and this that username and password, I think, was had been leaked, and it said these are the steps we are taking in order to ensure that you can reclaim your account, and that this is how you can protect your account. That's the way a responsible entity behaves. I trust Zomato because I believe if a hack happens again, it will take measures to ensure that I know that it's been hacked and how I can protect myself. The Indian government has been leaking data for over 12 years. Government departments used to publish files with people's username, Aadhaar, home address, permanent address, residential address, date of birth, mother's name, father's name in Excel sheets. And on Google search, we used to find these sheets. I've reported on this aspects. I downloaded some of those documents and I reported that this actually exists. The government departments, some departments on their website used to publish all this information. Aadhaar, there were multiple reports of Aadhaar, not just this data being leaked, but also Rasna Khera, if you remember in the Tribune, had reported in 2017 that Aadhaar database access was being sold for 500 rupees.
Yeah, on dark web.
Not on dark webs, on WhatsApp groups.
Okay.
On WhatsApp groups, Aadhaar data has already made it to the dark web, is a contention that many people have made. I don't know if it's true, but there are, and in each instance, there was a press release or an statement from the government that your data is secure and there is no breach every single time. So if a government can't admit that something has gone wrong and it can't take measures to protect us and tell us how to protect ourselves, why should I trust it? At the same time, through surreptitious means, it's constantly linking my Aadhaar and collecting my data. So now I wanted to get my voters ID renewed. I'm being told it'll only get it'll. Sorry, I wanted a new copy of my voter ID because the old one got spoiled. It says I can only get it if I do an Aadhaar authentication. Why? Today in the passport office, you have a longer line if you want to get a passport renewed without Aadhaar. Every child after they're born in many states in India is forced to create an Aadhaar for a birth certificate. You need an APAR ID for the child to go to school, and they ask for an Aadhaar for school admissions. Um, so you're constantly forcing linking of Aadhaar to everything. You are leaking data. You're not able to secure your data, and you expect us to. And when something wrong happens, you deny it, and you expect us to trust us. So I would trust a phone pay and a Google and a maybe even and I definitely trust WhatsApp and Signal. I may not trust Facebook or Instagram, but I definitely don't trust my government with the way it handles my data. So while these apps that I mentioned have earned my trust, I would say that the government has earned my distrust. So I don't want this app on my device. And I don't want to be forced to put it on my device. The government has no business forcefully entering my private space, which is my handset and my device, in which I have the most sensitive and personal of communications, and implanting itself there. It has no business doing this.
Okay, Nikhil, the reaction of the union government, particularly the Minister of Communication, Jyotiraditya Scindia, he gave a hurried, interaction outside the parliament where he said that it's not mandatory. Sanchar Saathi is not mandatory. If you don't like it, you can delete it. If you don't like the app being on the phone, you can remove the app. Is that the sense that we picked up when we read that directive that was issued by the Ministry of Telecommunications?
No, that's very clearly not. And as far as I understand, that was also not was in, what was indicated to handset manufacturers. The app has to be mandatorily present on devices, is what was indicated. The minister is obviously using the same, he's giving a different interpretation of the language in the directive, and he has that flexibility, which is fair to him. But they've changed their position, and that's okay with me. They can, but my point is, the app is still mandatory in the sense that it will be pushed to all of our devices. We'll be forced to install. The OEMs are still going to be forced to install it on our devices. They're still forced to push it to our phones. Now, uh, what is such a big deal about this app that is being forced on all of our handsets? If it's that good, if it's that amazing that it'll protect us from cyber fraud across the country, it'll solve this problem of cyber fraud. We'll install it on our own, right? If it helps us, we'll install it. If we trust it, we'll install it. So I think that point of choice, right, and that's the other difference between apps like Facebook, Google, whatever, and the government of India. The government of India has statutory power over us. It can force us to do things. It has a rule book big enough that it can implicate anyone in this country of a crime. I mean, there used to be a law against flying kites, by the way, that I think is still active, right? So
In some parts, I believe. Yeah.
correct. So I'm saying that when the balance of power is so heavily against citizens, our fundamental rights protect us, and there's a fundamental right to privacy against exposing ourselves all the time in perpetuity to the government, and the government needs to have necessity, proportionality, and a legal basis for doing this. And this should be challenged in court, even though they've said it's not mandatory, because it's still being forced on everybody's device. How many people will actually uninstall it? Most people don't even know which apps are on their device half the time, right? So, and we need the other thing that I want to remind you is that the reason why the Supreme Court had to give a 9-0 judgment saying that there's a fundamental right to privacy is simply because the government of India went to court arguing that privacy isn't a fundamental right. They took its that judgment came in 2016, where entering 2026, the data protection bill still isn't active. It also exempts the government from the facets of the data protection bill. So the government has created an exemption for itself, plus it's given itself the right to take any data uh, from private companies without us even knowing, because the government is exempt. So our data can be collected from public and private entities and collated in something called NatGrid, which the government has been working on, which is the National Intelligence Grid, right?
Yeah.
So the makings of a surveillance state are all the practices are all like, it's all there. The ingredients are there. You have a law that exempts the government. You have linking of data of your one unique ID with everything. You have the centralized monitoring system for phone surveillance. You have uh, uh, they're trying to break end-to-end encryption on WhatsApp so they can surveil message data, and they were now trying to enter our phones. So, and there was a time when the Supreme Court appeared to protect rights. Um, who knows how the Supreme Court will react when it's asked to protect us from this kind of surveillance? Because it's not just this, right? The DOT has been very active of late. There is a SIM binding order that came alongside this, which not many people are talking about, but that will link your social media account or your WhatsApp account and your Telegram account to a specific SIM card. So if you change the SIM, the account will still remain active. So there are things that are in motion right now from the government.
Right, Nikhil. From yesterday, I've been monitoring your social media feed, and also, several people are talking about it. But the entire BJP ecosystem, the government ecosystem, those supporting the government, they are coming up with one reason after another. Like when demonetization was announced, they said it was to curb black money, counterfeit currency. Then they said it was for digital economy. So like that, there are being multiple reasons that are being offered, and one among them is, I quote, says Sanchar Saathi cannot read your messages, listen to your calls, or access your personal data. Sanchar Saathi is for telecom safety and verification platform designed to enhance user security. The mandate is aimed at fraud prevention and stolen device tracking, like you pointed out earlier, but clearly not surveillance. So that's the official line.
So that's the official line. What's the unofficial line? What I'm trying to say is that when was the last time the government did exactly what it said it would do? You have official line is that it's not going to get access to your data, not get access to your messages, but see the permissions of the device. It has access to all the files on your device. It has access to your call records. It has access to your messages. So the official line is not necessarily proven by the permission information that this app takes to your device, and it's not the only app that takes all kinds of permissions for your devices. Many other apps also do this, and I'm saying all of it is something that we should question. And the only difference between this and maybe an Instagram or a Facebook or a Google, which also take a substantial amount of permissions, is that those companies don't have statutory power over you. We should find ways of ensuring that we can disable their permissions also. And we do. Many times, like I mentioned in Google Maps, I disable permissions of perpetual access to location for Google Maps for a reason, right? So we have some amount of control over them. All they want to do is make money of us. But a government getting into everyone's device has implications for a democracy. It has implications for freedom of speech. Perpetual surveillance is like living in a panopticon where someone's watching you all the time. Someone rightly said after this, it's like you're inviting a government official to sit in your house all the time.
So there are people, there are citizens who would say that I have nothing to hide, so I shouldn't be bothered about what the government is doing. So how do you explain the risks that a government mandated app is there always on your phone? Like you said, it's a digital police that is always traveling with you, or how do you define this?
No, so first, I've heard this nothing to hide argument for almost a decade now, because the same argument came up when we were talking about the fundamental right to privacy. And It's a very simple thing. What Let's take what you would tell, for example, your spouse is not what maybe you would tell your parents. What you would tell your doctor is not what you would tell your employer, right? So there are things that we keep our life in silos, and we only expose that much information to someone that we want to tell them, and that's a matter of choice. It's how we exercise our privacy. It's also a question of trust. So if I'm meeting you for the first time, there's a certain level. I start with a position of either distrust or not knowing you at all, right? And then as we converse, we, there is a certain amount of trust that develops on the basis of social cues, and we open up more and more of ourselves to someone as and when we start trusting them more. And sometimes it can take one statement from someone to just completely for us to close up. So we exercise our right to disclosing our information depending on the circumstance and the person and our impression of the circumstance and the person that we're talking to. When someone's in your device all the time, you don't have that choice. You're exposing yourself completely all the time. So it's not a question of nothing to hide. It's about my trust is grade is on a gradient. It's not 0 and 1. So I have the right to exercise my privacy. I have the right to exercise my gradient of trust, so to speak. I We did a conversation maybe about 3 or 4 years ago on a concept that I just randomly thought of it, and I thought it's worth having a discussion with smarter people on it, on the idea of proportionality in identity.
Hmm.
So if you think about it, when we join the internet, we keep ourselves. First step is we keep ourselves anonymous. Then, as we become comfortable with the platform, then we will maybe put our real name over there, or maybe we'll put a photo without a name. So bit by bit, we choose how much to disclose about ourselves, right? In the same way, for one service, if it asks for my mobile number straight away, I might not want to give it. I might create a throwaway email address and then create an account and then slowly start giving it more information about myself as I trust the platform, right? So today, it seems as if we're operating between two extremes. You either give nothing or you give everything. You give your biometrics, you give your facial information, you give your ID number, you give a mobile number everywhere. Every shop asks you for your mobile number. We should exercise that right to not give. But I'm saying if there has to be a violation of privacy, which is what every time a government asks you to identify yourself and give your details, etc., it's a violation of privacy. It's a conscious violation of privacy, like you're making an exchange for something. When is it proportionate to just disclose a name? When is it proportionate just to disclose a name and a mobile number? When to just have name, mobile number, address? Because you can't go from zero to biometrics straight away, right? There is a scale at which you should operate, and so that idea of proportionality doesn't seem to exist in the concept of the Indian government. Everything they're asking for video KYC or they're asking for Aadhaar authentication. Everything requires biometrics. Today, at times when you go to a, a hotel, earlier they used to ask for a photocopy. They used to photocopy your ID. Today they scan it. There's a fundamental difference between scanning and photocopying. On a photocopy, you can put a line across and say, for this purpose only, and so on this date and until this date, right? Scan means someone can replicate it. So your trust is lower there. So we've gone to a situation where Chios wants to do facial recognition in order to serve your tea. I mean, I reported this a few years ago, and then Chios stopped it for a couple of years before they brought in a consent mechanism. So I'm, at times I remember when I was going to when I went to DLF Cyber City in Delhi to enter the building, they wanted to scan my ID, and I refused. And I asked them why, and people were just scanning and going. I'm just saying we need to be more conscious about how much of our own data we're putting out there, because it is that consciousness and how careful we are that will help reduce and prevent frauds. You should ask someone who asks you for your Aadhaar, why Aadhaar? Why not this ID? So I try and give different IDs at different places for different things, because I don't want a single ID to be connected to everything. It's a matter of choice, right? And we need to be careful, because very clearly our government is not being careful for us. The reason why these frauds are happening is because they have leaked data and they have linked data across the board. They are responsible for this fraud, and now they want us to expose more of ourselves, saying that will address that fraud. How is that logical?
That's a $1 million question. And also, Nikhil, how does this move align with the global norms? Do other countries have such mechanism where they ask mobile phone manufacturers to pre-install government mandated app? And what do you think this kind of directive, what kind of impact it will have on phone manufacturers globally?
Okay, so two separate questions. On the global norms, it's happened in Russia. And in Russia, the Max Messenger was forced on handsets this earlier this year in September. Um, and all handset manufacturers have complied, including Apple. Now, there are some reports that Apple in India is refusing, but those are anonymous reports from unnamed sources. And to my mind, unless it's official from Apple, I'm not going to take it at face value. I trust the Reuters reporters, but I still say that unnamed sources can lie, right? So no handset manufacturer will refuse to do this, especially the Chinese ones, because they're not coming from a country where fundamental rights to privacy, freedom of speech are respected, and this is just a market for them to do business in, right? With all due respect to all the Indian employees that they have, the company is here to just sell handsets and make money. It's the second largest handset market in the world. No one will want to lose this market. So there is a substantial amount of leverage that the government has over these handset manufacturers. So they will comply, in my opinion. They might push back because they know that, and also all of your viewers should know this. It could be the start of something new. In the sense, today you will have the Sanchar Saathi app on your device. Tomorrow, Ministry of Health will say, put our app. After that, Ministry of Education will say, hey, education is also important, and we want to have, uh, people are learning all the time. You people watch YouTube for education. We should also, our app should be on every device so that it becomes widespreadly, it's used in a widespread manner. Ministry of Education will want it. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways will say install our install DigiLocker so your drive mandatory, because so that your driving license is on your device at all times. Where will this stop? Because every ministry will say, hey, these guys got away with putting an app on your device. We also want it. And so this madness has to stop at the start itself.
And the impact on phone manufacturers?
It doesn't make a difference to them, like I said. They will do it because they have a market to lose.
And Nikhil, you also mentioned about something which is very important, the SIM binding aspect of it, which a lot of people are not talking about. A lot of political parties haven't raised this issue. Can you explain to our viewers what exactly SIM binding is and how this could, impact them?
So what happens is today, when you use WhatsApp or you use Telegram, your identity is linked to your mobile number, which is that your app is linked to your mobile number and to the device ID. So it does an OTP sort of verification, and you can use it. In this case, it won't just be bound to the number; it'll be bound to the SIM card. So it'll take the IMEI number of the SIM card and be stuck to it. And so if you remove your SIM from your device, it won't work. Now let's look at how people use many of these apps, right? I, for example, have two handsets, and I use the same account on both handsets because WhatsApp allows you that functionality. So does Telegram. Um, Now with SIM binding, I'll only be able to use it on one device. I use one device for work, other device I use when I'm off work, and so I want at least some apps to be on both. But that's just me. There are lots of people in this country who, in offices, put WhatsApp web or Telegram web on their desktop. Sorry, they have WhatsApp or Telegram's desktop apps. They will not be able to use these apps because there's no SIM binding. And in case of WhatsApp web, uh, the regulation says that you will mandatorily be signed out of it every 6 hours. So many companies actually, their entire coordination between teams happens on WhatsApp. That won't work anymore because they'll constantly get, someone or the other will keep getting logged out of the device, right? And so it's irritating. Another thing is that a lot of people, when they go abroad, they get uh, they buy a local SIM because it's cheaper than buying overpriced international roaming from mobile operators in India. Um, and their primary use is actually WhatsApp. They don't make phone calls or SMSs when they're abroad. So they with SIM binding, uh, if you replace your local SIM with your international SIM, uh, these messaging apps will not work. So there are lots of these use cases that are will get impacted. Another big one is actually WhatsApp for business. So lots of D2C businesses, online businesses today give you your transaction information over WhatsApp essentially. So sometimes, let's say if you book a ticket, they'll send you the PDF for your ticket on your WhatsApp itself. All of that will not work because that comes from the cloud. It comes from um, WhatsApp's API connected to to a cloud server, and then connected to a client, a customer relationship management client on the other end. I know I'm getting a little bit technical here, but um, uh, effectively, all that interaction is automated through software. There is no SIM card on that device that's actually managing the CRM, and so without a SIM card, it won't be allowed to function. So all of these businesses that have built this convenient mechanism of engaging through WhatsApp API will not be able to do it anymore. And that's an inconvenience for customers because how many people in this country actually have email? Most of them operate with mobile numbers as their primary identifier. And that actually brings me to a broader problem that we're seeing over here. So, when the telecom bill was passed in December 23, um, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav had refused to say on the floor of the House in Parliament, both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, whether this covers online apps or not, because IT Act covers online apps. And finally, he gave an interview to the Economic Times and said that that OTT apps, which is internet online apps, are not covered under the telecom bill. Now the ministers changed, but I took that as an official government stand and a statement, right? A few months ago, uh, the Department of Telecom passed a regulation saying that if a company uses a mobile phone as an identifier for a user, it comes under telecom regulation.
Okay.
I mean, that's as bizarre as saying that if a shopkeeper has an email address, they come under the internet regulation. So, a physical shopkeeper, I mean. So, using that like long stretched and bizarre sort of a mandate of saying just because you're using a mobile number for authentication, you're a telecom entity now. They've started issuing these regulations. And DOT is Department of Telecom is a telecom ministry. It works with mobile operators like Airtel and Jio and Vodafone Idea and BSNL, right? It's not an internet regulator, but it's given itself this mandate, and is pushing out these directives like with SIM binding, like with Sanchar Saathi, without any public consultation, without understanding how we use the internet. It is not capable of understanding how we use the internet. MeitY itself doesn't make very good regulations, by the way. The bad regulations coming out of MeitY all the time. But it's still better than what we're seeing from DOT, which is completely ignorant about how internet gets used because they have a telecom mindset. They're stuck in the 1990s, right? They shouldn't have the right to regulate us. They've taken this right through this long like this bizarre reasoning of mobile number, which ideally will not stand up in court. But nobody is going to court on this issue. And I have no doubt that we'll see more bad regulations coming out of DOT going forward because they don't understand the space.
Okay. One last question, Nikhil. Beyond privacy issues, beyond issues that people are talking about now, what does this move tells us about the government's approach? What exactly the government wants to do going forward?
Well, I don't doubt that the government wants to prevent fraud, right? I don't doubt that. Fraud is at an exceptional scale right now. Thousands of crores are being stolen from people. People are falling prey, but they're falling prey largely to social engineering attacks. And that's happening a lot, many times out of fear. And that's because we are afraid of our government. We fear our government, and we don't trust our government. We believe, we don't want our data to be available to a local thanedar. But if a local thanedar calls us and says that I have this data about you, I want a bribe, Uh, it'll happen. If you remember, there was a video that went viral about a person who, I think, in front of the district magistrate or the CM, actually made a call, put it on speakerphone, indicating and had a full conversation about bribe acceptance when the CM asked for proof. Right? We don't. So our relationship as citizens with the government is adversarial because it's trying to impinge on our fundamental rights all the time, and it keeps using this rationale that it's doing it to protect us. And I'll be very clear about this. This is not about the BJP. This was happening with the Congress as well. You let's not forget in 2012 or 13, Kapil Sibal went out and said that there should be pre-censorship of the internet. It's another thing that it's something similar seems to have been said at the Supreme Court also recently, and that's worrying. But the power that governments wield is becoming stronger as they understand more and more about us. And our laws, like the data protection law, which are meant to protect us, are actually exposing us now to more and more government power by exempting it. So the government can give one excuse as one reason as an intention, but the impact can be something else. And this means this comes out of a lack of trust. And frankly, in this case, the government has to do things to make us trusted. Building social media narratives using IT cell does not build trust. People are not stupid. So we need to see a proactive mechanism where if a law is being made, there needs to be a public consultation. The documents related to the public consultation need to be made public. They've been refusing them under RTI even. Citizen empowering mechanisms like the RTI Act should not be weakened. You have a situation where people are being struck off voter lists. That shouldn't be happening. So it'll have to come from the government, because it needs, if citizens and like we have a healthy distrust of the government, because the government is because our fundamental rights are meant to protect us against the government and the use of statutory power. Without fundamental rights, it becomes it's an authoritarian regime, right? And so we also need a Supreme Court to protect us and not say that responsibility is more important than rights or something like that uh, when it comes to free speech. Because eventually what will happen is people will just, whoever can afford it will end up moving out of this country. And that's what we've been seeing as well, right? People talk about how quality of life is better outside. We're seeing it because uh, we're always constantly fighting in this country to just live a basic, uninterrupted uh, life that isn't, where we aren't getting bullied by people who have power that the government gives to them, whether directly or indirectly. And some of this is good. Something's going to break at some point in time, and that's what I worry about. I don't want it to break. But I think we need a government that's a little more genuine about what it's trying to do, and a lot more communicative and a lot more transparent and accountable. We don't have a surveillance law in this country. There's an ordinance under which the government does surveillance, and it's not accountable to Parliament. Uh, I'm not saying the USA doesn't do surveillance, but in the US, the surveillance agencies are accountable to Congress, even if it's behind a closed door. Here, there is no accountability. That's why we don't trust the central government, we don't trust our state governments, we don't trust our local district magistrates, because our relationship is built by design to be adversarial now, and they're abusing power, and that's visible to people. And we don't know what to do about it unless our Supreme Court stands by us. And when it comes to privacy, let's not forget that the Supreme Court took 700 days after Justice Chellameswar said that we need to constitute a 9-judge bench to discuss the fundamental right to privacy. It took 700 days to constitute that 9-judge bench. That's ridiculous. With the Pegasus case, if you look at it, the Supreme Court hasn't heard it for almost 2 years. And even the expert committee report uh, is uh, is in a sealed file. It's not being made public. The committee actually made its depositions public. They put up videos of the depositions. Now that's all been removed. But the Supreme Court's the final report is sealed. So I would say it's on the Supreme Court also to build trust now, not just the government.
Right, Nikhil. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your valuable insights on this issue. Thank you, Nikhil.
Thanks for having me, Sabir. Appreciate it.